Good morning as we're sitting here at LTV on this beautiful morning. Indeed, a beautiful morning, Tuesday morning, July 9th, year 2024, here with the Hello Hello Show. And my name is Haim Mizrahi, continuing with the tradition of public access and the tradition of the Hello Hello Show that's been on the air since 1980. Of course, not to fail to mention the contribution by Fraser Dougherty, Francis Ann, and of course, the likes of you out there that make it your business to enhance and fortify this concept called public access. Thank you for being who you are, for helping in your way, in your own way, and your own unique design of thoughts and intentions. So, Greg Sullivan is here with us. I,
I
th-
am.
I think I fixed it somehow. So, yeah. What did I want to say? I wanted to be able to open a discussion. Yeah, yesterday I was here on the air and I managed for a whole hour to talk exactly about nothing. Like in a way, in no, and I purposely and intentionally, I
Yeah.
spoke for an hour and I had like a pattern where no one can understand what I'm talking about. I tried really hard, really hard. I tried to create a I don't know how to describe it, a chain of thought that relates to nothing, that answers to nothing, cares about nothing, and suddenly it's almost like I take it from my point of reference as an artist. So because I'm technique oriented and not subject matter oriented, so
Mm.
therefore I don't need a condition to come up with a subject before I can sing the song. So yesterday I said, well, I will try to adapt it as hard and as much as I can in order to manage to fill up a whole hour with something that just has something to do always to the word before, to the sentence before. That's it. It was very successful. So,
Please, take me with you. The technique oriented as opposed to subject oriented.
subject matter, yeah.
Subject, but please give me more information. That's really interesting. I'm just a freaking great thinker. But
Yeah,
so when you're speaking and you're on the show and you're doing an hour and you feel wonderful about what you've done because what you did was not subject oriented, it was technique oriented, and your technique carried you for the hour.
correct.
I love it. You really you fascinate me,
It's
Time. You really
easier,
do.
but it's easier said than done because we are conditioned through the years, especially when you engage in art, is that there's certain things that are like serve as a big no-no, especially if you belong to an official establishment. They don't give you much room to be a free thinker. Because it just interferes with their plan that happens to be. I don't want to put them down, but at best, a rigid plan. That doesn't really help. I always said, that it's always a good idea to give, a 10-15 minute free thinking period, where you stop everything and say, okay, let's just try and reveal what's available for us that is not familiar to us. There's fear associated with that kind of. Let's allow ourselves this fraction of time to discover. Remember when we spoke about discovering and recovering,
Yeah.
and realizing that we're not responsible for anything that we encounter. Really, we're just responsible for that which we find out that exists, and therefore put it to use.
The free thinking. The just letting your mind go and look that could be refreshing for me. That's what meditation is it's okay, I'm just going to stop, I'm going to be quiet, I'm just going to let my mind go every single place it goes, bing 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 bing, like a ping pong, like a pool, what's it called, in an arcade when you pinball. It's like my mind just goes out and bing, bing, bing all over the place, and then it keeps touching on the subjects that it's got in there, and then slows down and slows down. So pretty soon, I've calmed down to just one general, beautiful, blissful thought or feeling. Feeling. But uh, but so that's what free thinking is to me. It's like a meditation, and just let your mind go until you kind of calm into that wonderful comfort place. That's an emotion as opposed to a thought. Um, but I don't know how I could do that with other people, though. Because with you, I follow you and I listen, and I pick up on these little, these bits, like, even like, speaking with technique as opposed to subject matter,
Yeah, so
and
let's
that
do.
carries
You
you.
want to do an exercise here? Give you. Let's. I'm gonna give you a minute or two. I'm gonna give you 2 3 minutes to
Cool.
talk about nothing. Can you do that? Let's see. I want you.
I
I want you to prove to yourself how difficult it is.
To talk about nothing. To talk about nothing.
Do you want me to start?
Yeah, lead the way, man. Lead the way, pal. I
um, so that which carry us in that journey that was pre-existing, as we were thinking that we actually going through a path that was familiar, and then halfway through we saw all these sensations that were floating on thin air, and we were like amazed. But when we paused, it was a reminder that that which was left behind was the deposit that is responsible for this wonderful rigid feeling of this structure that shoots promises into the immediate future. And I personally wasn't taken by it because it's this is common practice on daily basis. So when I encountered that, this was in the midst of that kind of stepping forward and taking me into the recollection of yesterday, on my encounter with that white surface that was supposed to intimidate me, but instead of that, I just took it to heights that made it clear to the surface that it better not engage in any potential encounter that spells friction with me. So, your turn.
Oh God! Something. Now I see it's hard for me to not talk about nothing because I have something that that just comes up. But something that I do appreciate with you, you're when you laugh, I find when I'm with you that you'll laugh at something, and I'll go, oh, wait a minute. No, he's right. That is kind of funny. Well, I don't pick up on a lot of humor. When I was working at Cheers, and we would do like the blocking of stuff, be out on the set, and when the actors would do their first read through, the writers would be on the set, and then they'd get to a place where a joke was, and then the writers would go ha 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 ha, very phony, but they'd laugh, kind of giving the clue. Realize, I don't see. I'm not known for my comic wit, but I don't really see the humor in things that I should and that I'd like to. And in the world that I find when I'm talking to you, you'll have that laugh in a place I'm like, oh, wait a minute. Oh no, he's right. That there is humor there. So I learned. I listened to you, Haim, and I learned. But then the talking about nothing. Oh my God, there's so much nothing to not talk
Yeah, I know to not
about.
talk about. But what about the serious questions that you wanted to ask me? Maybe we should go there.
Oh, I want to do them when
Oh, when
we're
face to
or
face.
yeah, we're in face to face because it's fun, and some of it's kind of guy to guy stuff. Just some thoughts about the way sociology and the way things are working, and what I've seen on Instagram. Talking about nothing. I go to talk about look at about Instagram, and I don't know where to allow myself to go, and then that takes me to the thoughts about AI, and it's like AI is out there with all its information access, but where the hell does it know where to go? We ask it questions, and like I'm asking a question to you, or you ask a question to me, but then you're asking a question to AI, and it's going all over to a specific place. But then I find that I'm looking at social media, and it's not going anywhere. But then these topics keep coming up, especially women and men and marriage, and the death of marriage, and it seems like if left alone, it will go in a place that we'd rather it not go, and the places that we'd like society to go doesn't seem to be going that way.
Yeah, well, the thing is that it's all about asking the right question, because it's not about only about AI, because people don't know how to ask questions, and when they when they know how to ask questions, they don't know which questions to ask, if you know what I mean.
Mm,
So with AI, you have to make sure that you ask AI about its nature. So that means if I have encounters with AI, I always say, "Tell me about yourself." Yeah, and it's a good way to start. And then
yeah, yeah.
you would think that AI, any device, will not have any emotions or any reservations, other than, of course, the fixed scenario composition that is pre-composed, or whatever you want to call it, that put in place.
Mm,
And so you want to correct AI as you request it to help you.
mm, yeah.
So when you say, like, for example, here is something I wrote, please don't interfere too much with it. I just need you to clean it up for me, because I don't have the time to do it right now. Um, and let's just say that you press send, and then the AI is sending you back a version, whatever. Um, and then you look at it, and I said, I cannot let AI off the hook by submitting something like this to me. Sorry. So, and then you go back and forth, back and forth.
Oh, good,
I got,
good.
I got, I had an exercise with AI where I got AI to admit that it cannot continue. At a certain point, AI told me, um, let me know if you need any further help. But he told me that while we were engaging. There was no conclusion there. Usually
Yeah.
when you say, okay, thank you, whatever it is, or AI says, I hope I answered your question, or it, it, it was fed up. So this is when
That's interesting.
yeah,
you
fed up,
you
like
you
saying,
you exhaust. If anybody's mind could exhaust AI, it's yours,
that's what.
Haim. If anybody's thought processes could exhaust AI, it's yours. God bless you.
No,
I
but you know what I mean. So now, if you were to sit here with me, and let's have necessarily we don't know each other. It does happen to me now and then,
Yeah.
where it did happen in the past more than now. I would have most of my guests were people that I never met. So they wonder how come there's going to be an interview taking place when we never met. I don't know anything about them. This and that. So I have a way of kind of giving you the right of way to. Kind of summarize an introduction, a very short one. And so when I see any doubt seeping into the early stages of that interaction, I become immediately over the top sophisticated with the following questions. So what
Mm,
happens is that I leave no choice to the person in front of me, unless that person wants to make a fool of himself or herself, which nobody does, to behave and to be respectful, because the game is real, and maybe people find themselves quickly enough that out of their leagues. So I have a way of doing that. And so it's not really about asking the right questions, It's about honesty and openness and all that. You know that better than me. But also, it's about the fact that you ask a question and your interviewee will say, "That's a good question." And so they're telling you that they understand, they're telling you that this is going somewhere.
Mm.
But not many people would like to give you a chance and to see you prevail and succeed and thrive. You'd be
No,
surprised.
that's sad. That's sad. I know.
And this is happening while you're trying to do a service for them, to to introduce them to the public and say, here's an individual here. We want to find out together who he is or who she is and what they're all about. What is it that we can learn from them? And you can only do it by acquiring and inquiring the the desire to know who this person is. So how are you going to go about it? There's not that many ways to do it, you know. So I sometimes I ask a question and the answer by the other person would be, did you mean this? Did you mean that? You know. So I like that. That's a promising encounter when someone says. So they're showing you that they want to really understand further before they attempt to answer.
And I appreciate that because breaking the chain and it's kind of a lazy thing, but breaking the chain of uh, of, of talking in platitudes and just something that you think fits, as opposed to actually having to use critical thinking to come up with a brand new thought process. There's so many places in our language where we use words and phrases that we just use them because they seem to fit. But when you actually break them down into the words, it's like, really, um, but so I love the thought of scrambling up the words and people and making them having to reform them in a way that's a little bit more original. That some of those phrases that we always hear. How many times do you ever hear someone say, "Without further ado, we're going to give"? Does people really know what those words mean? I mean, we say those words, right? We say, "Without further ado," because you know that that's what you have to say, so because you're bored of talking and you want to hand it over to somebody. So, but without further ado, well, where does that come from? The 18th century? It's not like the common vernacular, but we use it all the time. So I love the thought that you kind of break people up and say, no, no, I'm going to ask you this. And then you have to think about it. And they have to come back and say, well, did you mean this or did you mean that? Um, yeah, that's why I think you're a great thinker. Yeah, keep us all scrambling up and having to. And I think it's a faster path, farther. I use the phrase farther, faster, further, farther forward, faster, sooner, to get to a new, better place, and and breaking up some of the old habits and thought processes is really healthy. So I love that you do that, and for people to say, is this how you mean this? Is that how you mean it?
But the thing is that I have a lot of help from my experience as an artist, as a creative individual. When I was growing up in Jerusalem in the years of 15, 16, 17, 18, before joining the army, I was surrounded by musicians. I was a drummer and I wanted to be, the best that I can be. Like all the people that surrounded me, drummers and pianists and guitar players and saxophone players and all that. We were a huge, solid group of musicians, and it was just nothing but music. We were introduced to Return to Forever, to Weather Report, to Chick Corea, to Billy Cobham, to Steve Gadd, all these wonderful, wonderful entities in the early 70s in Jerusalem, out of all the places in the world. And I remember at some point I realized, oh my God, there's no way I can be what I thought that I want to be or should be. I'm never going to get there. I got this premonition. Don't even ask me how. I just realized I'm not going to be what I desire to be, thrive to be, really. So what am I going to do? But I still want to play the drums. It doesn't mean that I don't have to continue playing the drums and be a drummer. So then I switched to freestyle. Now, freestyle is a very annoying definition. It always bothered me, as it bothers me now when I say freestyle. But what I'm trying to say is something that I understand only when I say freestyle. I really meaning that the style that is injected with freedom brings about to the surface a style that happens to be free. So that means uh, um, sparing you from the burden of that which is otherwise, that which will force you to operate in a certain fashion and in the certain space and in a given time, controlled and whatnot and all this. So what I did is I said, okay, just as much as um, um, just as much as when I started writing poetry, I realized,
Maestro.
no, wait a second, who's that? Wait. Oh, wait. I'm sorry.
Did you drop me or did I drop you? I just all of a sudden it
No,
just dropped
because
out.
someone called me and I pressed
Ah,
answer by there, and then suddenly he says, okay, just as I realized early on that with with my poetry, I didn't have the ability to write the the, the length that I desired, the beefiness of it, the entire story from beginning to end. I always failed. I always lost track. I didn't have the tools. And even when I acquired the tools, it wasn't enough. So I said, okay, I'm going to switch to thinking for 2 hours and writing for 5 minutes. Literally, I'm not kidding you. Thinking for as long as I can, thinking deep about whatever, the human condition, whatever, the playfulness of life. And then writing 5 lines. Then writing an aphorism or a proverb or whatever, a statement.
does that speak to what I was mentioning about for me trying to think about nothing? For me, it's like a meditation, just letting my mind go ping ponging around. Like you're thinking for 2 hours, and then when you rest and you come to a settling place, you're coming up with one sentence to write.
Yes, but it's more scientific than you would think. It's more precise than you would think, because the thing is to think a lot and to write a little bit is not a game. It started as a playful aspect of, okay, and then I needed to reach that level of seriousness where I would find myself where where I wanted to be, where I thought I deserved to be. So when it comes to music, I said, okay, I can take whatever it is that I am familiar with when it comes to jazz music and other kinds and styles. How am I going to insert my freedom into it, my personal interpretation, due to the lack of my ability to perform excellence within the style, that I will do without the style? You know what I mean? So that means you need to work on your willingness to engage, because I already established mine. So if you will end up or will want to play with me, you need to be ready and compatible with my style. So of course
Well,
you will not find many partners for that, because what the heck. But
wait.
on the other hand, if you find one or two, then quickly enough they become loyal to you, loyal to the style. And then you realize you don't need more than a couple of partners for a lifetime. You really don't. And then everybody that listens to you guys is baffled all the time, all over again, amazed.
Uh,
Why? Because they realize they're encountering and experiencing something that they themselves cannot do, even though they're established musicians. And that realization is a humbling factor that no one can argue with. No one, no one. So because I remember at the at that place in Sag Harbor, the Bay Burger. Remember Bay Burger on the Turnpike?
yes,
They
yeah,
used to
yeah,
have the jam sessions there every
yeah.
Thursday. So I remember one day I went, I played. And, I mean, they let me play, and I don't know. They said let's play giant steps. Okay, that's a fast one.
Giant steps.
Yeah, da 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 da. It's fast. Now
Hmm.
I'm not. So I told him, yeah, well, I can play giant steps, but I haven't played for a while, so take it easy on me. We don't have to go like ta 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 ta. Ta. We can go ta 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 whatever. So we start playing, and then I realize not only that they don't slow it down, they go faster even. And I know the drill. I know the drill. I played jazz many hours in my life.
Hmm.
So I said, you know what, those SOBs, I'm going to teach them in this and they will never forget. So I started playing freestyle because freestyle playing giant steps is too slow for me when it comes to freestyle. So what I introduced is something that they know exactly zero about. So what happens, they look at me and they're stunned because they don't want to stop to ridicule myself themselves, because musicians are very, very delicate, sensitive individuals. On the stage, they're different people. They're very scared to make a fool of themselves. So I'm looking at them without saying a word, telling them, "Hey, listen, if you want to go that route, I can puzzle you too. I can derail you here while I'm playing." And then they slowed down. Then I went back to the original, the original swing. And then they started playing fast again, and then I went to freestyle until they realized they cannot mess with me. They cannot. There's a price to be paid, and I have what it takes to make them pay the price when they're disregarding a fellow musician. So, but you
uh,
need to have that point of reference when it comes. For example, I'm not a trained painter. I'm not a trained poet. I mean, yeah, well, to a certain degree, but not officially. I mean, I didn't go. I didn't study per se, study conventionally, and I mean, and I have what I myself discovered for myself and introduced to myself. So I needed to trick myself, to make believe, to act. You know,
hmm.
I needed to distract myself in order not to dwell too much, which usually prevents you from creating. Dwelling is not good. So I cross implemented it to like in my studio as I paint. If I have an issue, if I have something that is an obstacle, something that I find myself into coming to a dead stop, I go to my drum set to resolve it. So I free myself, open myself with a certain pattern that I play on the drums, and I say, "Wow, that works." Then I go back
What were you playing when you were playing with those guys?
drums.
Drums. Yeah, okay.
Yeah. So in my studio, when I face the canvas and I have issues, I go and I resolve them as I play my acoustic drum set for 5 minutes. Then I reintroduce myself to the canvas, and that's it. I'm a winner. It works. It works. It's individual and it's personal and it's intimate, but it doesn't mean that it doesn't have a huge aspect, universal aspect to it. You know what I mean?
It's like your own reset button.
Yeah, yeah. To a certain degree, I'm more coherent than one would think I am.
uh, God bless you. God bless you. Look. One of the things that I've just recognized, and I think I said it to you before. But even when you were talking about other people and then their conversations with you and having to work for it, you can't be lazy with you. You can't be lazy talking to you. You have to be active. But that's a beautiful part of you. You and you're mentioning that you were trying to do things that you realized, back in Israel, but that you're at Jerusalem, that you might not, that you thought, well, I'm never actually going to be able to be that, but that's just because you're very intellectually ambitious. You're the most ambitious intellectually and personally ambitious person, to look at yourself and to think about yourself, and that thinking about how you're thinking is the hallmark of the new evolutionary species that we're becoming. Thinking about how we're thinking about things. So you're like a, you're a trailblazer with that. But you can't be lazy with you, and you have to be on your toes. But I love that.
But you know
I love
that
that.
with
It's like
you're more like me than you think you are. It's just that you're not aware of it. And so if you create that awareness, you will become more. You'll be able to do more and more the things that you so admire that I do that you cannot or you won't.
well,
You
I'm
have
becoming a follower, that's for sure.
no. But you have that. You have that within you, but you never bother to pause, to stop, or to reflect and say, "Let me get into the nature of what I'm all about," kind of thing. You find out, you'll be surprised.
Yeah. Well, look, you took me to a place. You took me to this exercise. I don't know how well I did in it. I don't think very well. Didn't last long, but I liked it. I liked it. I'd like to do it again. Thinking about and talking about nothing,
Yeah, but you didn't
and
try.
where to go for
You
nothing.
didn't try. Give it a try. Let's hear you.
I wouldn't. This is new. This is new territory. I'm
Listen,
going to
you
tell you.
failed
I'm going
without failing.
to. Look, I'm gonna repeat your words and what you said to those musicians. Take it easy on me. This is my first time. Be gentle with me. I'm easing into it, but not talking about nothing, but going into a pool of clear water where nothing is existing, and coming out from there to talk about nothing. That's kind of new for me, but it's refreshing.
But don't think
I,
about getting in or coming out.
uh,
Don't. That's exactly what's going to prevent you from being able to do it.
mm,
You're already confining yourself into rules. Oh, I'm going to go in, I'm going to spend time, then I'm going to come out. If I was to think that, that would be like nowhere. I won't be able to
Well,
open my.
I was thinking more of it in terms of like tipping my foot into the water to kind of test it out and see what it was like.
No,
But
no, these are slogans.
no,
Dipping yourself in the water is a slogan that will prevent you from doing
yeah,
it, period.
yeah.
But,
Yeah,
but,
see
but
that I love that. But breaking up the pre-existing thought processes, shatter them and break them up, and start thinking anew.
it's what is the concern? Let's decipher it together. The
Uh,
concern is to make a fool of yourself. You're afraid that you will make a fool of yourself. For lack of a better description, I'm saying fool.
yeah,
It's a scary thought. You know, I can tell you one encounter that my friend.
yeah. Haim, my whole life has been struggling to be understood.
I know, but I
So,
can give
you
you an
know,
example, but by someone
yeah.
who was always like suspicious of my ability to prevail. Um, Seriously, I'm saying. So he saw me. That was 10 years ago, 15 years ago, and he said, "You know what? I always heard about your show and all this, and then one day I, but I never watched it really. So I kind of felt like I'm forming an opinion about something that I never watched. So the other night I saw you on TV, and I looked at you, and I said, I am going to watch this from beginning to end. And then when you started talking, I I my inner self was ridiculing you, like saying, "No way, this guy can survive." That was 2 hours, a 2 hour show. Then there's no way. He said, "I'm looking at the TV, I'm seeing you there, and I was kind of almost indirectly hoping for you to fail." 2 hours later, he tells me. 2 hours later, I realized that I didn't realize that I'm actually watching you for 2 hours. And and then I
Wow.
realized how ridiculous it was for me to think and to feel the way I did. You managed, and you prevailed to carry on the weight of 2 hours, which is unimaginable. And at some point, I stopped being judgmental. I couldn't be judgmental. It was too much material taking place live for me to place an opinion. So any attempt of me to ridicule you will end up ridiculing myself. So now he doesn't know that I respect what he just did because he taught me a lesson. A huge lesson. I learned a lot from that encounter that he opened up and shared with me. that indeed I should never take it for granted, even though I know that anytime I sit at this on this chair, I can produce and I can deliver an hour without the need to evaluate whether it was good or not.
Yeah, it's powerful. Oh, that's a nice, powerful place to come from. And thank you for the compliments. I'm glad. I'm
Yeah,
glad I was able to keep your attention for 2 hours.
yeah. No, but I mean, this was someone. This was a friend that was always sarcastic and
Yeah.
always, whatever. So, and my job wasn't to please him when he's putting an unpleasable face. Um, when he's telling you there's no way you can penetrate through me. I'm who I am, and I will be like that all the time. And a part of it will be belittling you. You follow?
Yeah.
So a part of it was belittling me, for God's sake, which is, and with painting also, painting was the scariest aspect of my mediums of creation. Like I was so scared. I still am scared. I bring my paintings to the gallery and I curate and I hang and in the back of my mind saying like, who's going to approach me and say, I know you're a real loser. You're a nobody. You're a nothing. I remember in 1985, 86, I painted this green gallery, a new gallery that they opened in Soho on Green Street. One of my first main big projects. Uh, I was dating this woman in Manhattan, so we had a place to stay. So I brought all of my crew, and she said, "Oh, come stay over." For 5 days, we painted that gallery, and I remember that there was a grand opening, so they invited me. They said, "You're the real artist. Come. We'll introduce you to everyone and whatever it is." And believe me, when I was 25, I was really good looking. I was like really, really good looking. Okay, let's put it this way. I'm trying to be humble here. So, but still, why am I trying to tell you? I went to the gallery, and the feelings that I have inside me were as if everybody's looking at me and saying, oh, here's the loser. The loser has just entered the gallery. Now, early on, still, I never tried to push it away from me, these feelings, because I didn't know what was the nature of it, what was responsible for it. And I didn't wanted to take a chances to push something away from me without being able to somewhat resolve it. So
Good for you.
I'm in the gallery, 25 years old, 26 years old, infested with terrible feelings about myself, not knowing what the heck is going on. Everybody is looking at me and there's no problem here. Everybody liking me. I look good. I'm young. I'm talented. I'm a conversational person, but I feel like crap. So I think early on, realizing that I didn't push it away from me and cleared it under the rug helped me resolve it sooner than I thought it will. And good,
Good for you.
yes,
Good
I
for
know.
you, man. That's the people that will walk away from discomfort never grow. They never grow. You're really ambitious. You can tell your whole life you've been ambitious, intellectually and personally, challenging yourself. You don't walk away from a challenge or a discomfort. And so many people, something gets uncomfortable, oh, they just go away, and then they stay in the same place. They never grow. So God bless you for that. But look what it did. It was great for you.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And still now and then I have those kind of feelings where you can't help it. You have to let the past come and brush through you. And when it does, I don't argue with it because certain things are stronger than me, and I don't stand a chance to win.
The things that are stronger than you. So like me, there's some even to this day there's some subconscious things that were embedded in my programming as a young kid. That even though I grew out of it as an adult and proved myself and became my own person, there's still kind of I still find them lingering and somehow go back to thought processes that were not valuable and not so. So I still kind of struggle trying to break out of a person that I, uh, all parts of me that should have been discarded completely a long time ago. I think you had the capacity to completely shed those unwanted things and not let them come back in.
Yeah, you know what? I wanted to ask you a question because I noticed that about you when you conduct your interviews and your shows. You know, there's a compacted enthusiasm that is it's like on demand. You know, when you need it, you press a button, it's there available for you. Um, and now nowadays I remember more and more who you were 30 years ago, and you know, when you first approached me like a year ago when we first met again.
Yeah.
It was vague. I know who you were, but it was vague. It was like a part of the distant past, you know. But now I remember more and more. And you never changed in that sense. You always owned the moment by the fact that that level of enthusiasm was almost a cause, an indirect cause for people to be envious, you know. Um, but I, I think you're more aware of it than you let out people to understand that it is so. Tell me a little bit about it.
The it's a curse and a blessing. I recognize it, and I'm more conscious of it now than ever before. Before it was just me, and now I recognize it as me. But recognize, that to have the consciousness of it, of overextending and doing too many things all the time, but and that keeps a kind of energy going on. But like this morning, I I have this thing, I've got this book I'm launching, and not just a book, it's a genre. I believe that I'm launching a new, completely new genre of literature, and that's going to be part of my legacy. Like Walt Whitman and writers of the past. What legacy did they leave behind? I believe that I will go down and not believe I will go down as having created a new genre of literature. So I'm presenting that, and you got a lot of people around you in there.
Say that again. Sorry.
Sounds like there's a lot of people mumbling behind you. No.
Well, even if they
Uh,
are, who cares?
so I so I um so like this morning I did I have my book and it's up online, and I have it in it's a working title that will change, but it's called the Bayside Experiment. But inside of it, it's got three different parts, and one is a book about kind of autobiography about my past, and there's another blog that's kind of about things that are current, and then there's another thing that went out with the Mayan calendar, which is about the future and what we can look at to say we don't need to do that anymore. We can now grow, and that's what I like about you is like discard that other stuff and here think about something new now. So I've got those kind of three components, but I only open it up right now while it's still in development. I only open up the website while my show is on LTV. So I tell people like if you're seeing me, you can look at my website. So this morning on my Instagram, I uh, I I I shot the I had myself I showed myself. If you look at my last Instagram post, you'll see it. I had the picture of myself on LTV. I had another monitor that had the book on it. I've got another monitor that has a Final Cut Pro open up because I'm editing a piece about the Art Depot out here in Montauk. And then I've got my laptop that had all these photographs that I was going through, trying to find pictures that I'm going to be putting onto the book. So I'm shooting the TV, talking about and listening to seeing myself talking and about the book, and then I'm showing the on the screen. I'm showing the I'm point on the Instagram post. I'm posting to the book and going through what the book is about while I'm actually saying, and it was funny, it kind of synced up by itself, Haim. I wasn't intentional, but it just kind of fell into place where while I was showing a part of the, I was pointing the camera at the monitor, at a monitor that I have that has the book on it, and talking about a segment. All of a sudden on TV that had been recorded 2 months ago, I started talking about the exact same thing at the exact same time. They kind of went synchronicity. it was kind of like, wow, that was interesting. That how did that happen? But so I had that, and then so it's kind of like just showing the different things that I'm working on all the time, and I like being creative, and I like being creative, and I think that's what you might have sensed from me back in the early days is I've got a creative mind, and I think maybe from that. From being maybe because my babysitter was television and watching cartoons when I was a little kid, and I got this very creative mind. I don't know, but wherever it comes from, I do enjoy creating. It's thrilling to me. Life is short. We're here. Create. You know.
Oh yes, definitely. There's no doubt about it. And for a while when I started creating, I like volume. I like quantity. I like a lot. But it doesn't mean that I'm trying to cover for a lack of quality because I create so much. But because people are helpless uh, in the face of their disability to deliver the goods, so to speak, or as much as they want to, and they cannot, then they look at you like something is wrong with you, and they don't hesitate to point it out, and it's much ado about nothing really. But our job is not to educate the public, even though now and then, yes, I try to indirectly indicate in educate the public by saying to someone, "Hey, listen, I think there's a better way to approach this, yeah. And if you're willing to hear, I can suggest what it is." And
Time, time.
yeah,
You're being humble again. You can't open your mouth without educating.
yeah.
You just can't. You can't. You're a brilliant thinker, and everything that you are, every thought that you have is something that is stimulating and educating. So God bless your humility. But
No, but what I
um,
mean is like I'm talking about, let's say, um, 20 years ago, uh, in the early stages when I was in my studio, I remember that nobody tapped on my shoulder and say, "Hey, listen, here's a suggestion or two. Don't go there. Go more here. Do more of that. Less of that. Um, here, here's the nature of shortcuts. Yeah. Here's the nature of eliminating that which drains your energy. Here's how you identify things that coming your way that is up to no good, that you can completely avoid it." Nobody told me that. I would love,
mhm.
after the fact, I would have loved to, because I started when I was 38. My first painting, that's old. And so now, because I gained so much experience, I do go to I go to an art show, and if it's my friend or whatever, I take the liberty to say, "Listen, can I remember I went to that to the show. It was a show with someone, whatever. It's an artist I never met, large scale art, paintings, oil, the real deal, so to speak. But I couldn't get over the fact that this guy w- wants to describe his painting so much that it annoyed me. It bothered me, and I'm listening kind of from the side,
Yeah.
and I said, why? I was trying, before I approached him, I was trying very hard to understand what's going on. Why is he so zealous about giving all the information and this and that and so dramatic? Anyway, and I said, I'm getting nowhere. I approached him and I said, "You like to talk about your paintings, huh?" And he looked at me. I was
Sounded
like,
like you were going to hit him.
"Oh my God, yeah." Like I said, "Okay, what am I doing? What am I doing?" While I said that, I said, "What did I just do?" So I said, "You really like to talk about the paintings, aren't you? Uh, do you mind if I offer you a piece of advice?" He said, "No, no, no." I said, "Listen, your paintings are incredible first phase. So that means now your paintings are ready to continue and add the conclusion to them.
Ah, yeah.
So So what I'm trying to share here with you is that
How did he respond?
so I told him that what I'm trying to share with you is that you describing to people the end result that happens to be only the background of your paintings.
Mm.
And he looked at me and he said, nobody ever dare talking to me like that and say these things. But I'm willing to listen. He said, I'm willing to listen. He was a little upset. I saw his face expression. But I said, remember, this is excellent in achieving the background. Now you can start painting. That means take them back to your studio and start painting on them. You achieved the background successfully. Congratulations. And so, so this is borderline giving a really great advice, I thought, to an artist and an artist that I don't know, and at the same token, buying myself an enemy. So,
Yeah, but someone who respects you. You want him to like you or respect you? So he
yeah,
respects
no,
you.
but it was
You
like
know.
he did not bother to stop and think who's listening to him other than the person he's addressing, because he was loud and he kept on
Mm.
repeating himself every time. You didn't have to ask him about his painting for him to volunteer an explanation, and usually a long explanation. And he's talking about things that really don't exist there, and it's just theatrical and whatever. So I'm an artist. I'm sensitive. It bothers me, and so I asked him for permission if I can say something, if I can offer, if I can suggest.
Uh,
But I thought that if this was me and someone approached me like this, I would kiss his hands and thank him. Thank you.
mm,
Yes, yes, indeed. No one came to me. On the contrary, they criticized me as if I was an established artist, while I wasn't at the early stages, wasn't at all.
mm,
But then I learned from that also. I said, okay, so they are actually taking me for an established artist, so I should thank them for that and feel good about it. But instead of being upset about anything, I should take it to heart and I should learn from anything and everything. And since then, every solo exhibition that I had, I used to go back to the studio with all my notes. I used to take notes. Every word, every remark that I heard, I used to write down. A lot of people used to come to me the following shows and say, "Oh, I see that you listen, huh?" Because the suggestions that they gave me, I implemented immediately.
mm.
Took advantage of it. Nothing wrong with that. But you have a way that where y- you have incredible knowledge in so many things. You're smart, but you don't intimidate people. You make them feel as if they can survive in your company, in your presence, that they stand a chance. You know what I mean? And that and yeah.
I love it. Thanks.
and that and
You
that
know.
and that is and that is and I think that is you yes. They stand a chance,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and you're very mindful of it. But what do you think about my statement?
No, I'm sorry, but you're kind of putting your finger on something that I live with, and I am conscious of that, and I don't ever want to. I don't ever want to think of myself as someone, but I do sometimes say, "Oh, this guy doesn't stand a chance." but I don't want to. I don't want to. I don't think that that's a great way I should be feeling about myself, but I'm conflicted about that. Maybe I should just recognize that sometimes I'm just, farther forward, faster, sooner than they are. You are definitely farther forward, ahead, faster, sooner than others. So a lot of people probably are not going to try to give you advice because they're looking at you as like, oh, this guy's so far ahead of me, I got nothing to say to him. But and then if they do, you appreciate it, and that's cool too. But for me, it's uh, it's, yeah, trying to find that balance of having the drawing out a good conversation and engaging with people and learning. because everybody's got, and nobody, no two people look at the same thing the same way. Everybody's got something different to say, some truth that you can benefit from, even if it's people that you think you got, that would have nothing to say to you. I take care of this little homeless woman, and she's very sweet, Janet, and I became her court-appointed kind of guardian trustee. I was just doing it out of my own, and then people asked me if I would do it officially. I said, okay, sure, but I care about her so much. But here's this little homeless woman. No one gives her the time of day, but I spend time with her, and I see these parallels in the way she talks and the way I talk, and I realize, look, and I almost feel time. I almost feel like it's like sometimes. Oh, this is really. Please, I think you're going to appreciate this. I sometimes, when I see the way she does things, and again, she's homeless. She lives out on the street. I've helped her get an apartment, and she goes to it and she loves it. But she still gravitates back to the street and then goes back to, her apartment. But I look at the way she lives her life and the things she does, and then when I go to say anything to give her any kind of advice, like Janet, you really should do this. I stop and I go, oh my God, no, no, that's the advice you should be giving to yourself. There's some relationship with this woman, and I now I feel that with everybody, that no matter who I'm talking to, you too, you especially, but when I'm talking to you, and I'm saying something, I'm hearing something that I should be advising myself of and learning, as if God is talking to me through other people, and the thoughts that I'm having that are going to speak to them. Like when I go to say to Janet something like, Janet, you really shouldn't do this. So, if you just organize this a little bit better, this way your life would be better. When I go to think about giving her advice, every single time I'm like, holy smokes, Greg, look at you. You would be wise to be listening to that advice. So I think that kind of speaks to what you're speaking about when I'm talking to other people, whether they stand a chance or not. But every time I'm talking to somebody, I'm talking somehow to a reflection of myself. So I kind of listen to hear what I'm supposed to be learning, from other people about myself.
Yes, yes, that makes sense what you're saying. But then again, we're in the business of first of all self pleasing, and then realizing that there's a crowd out there, that we don't live alone in this world, and then
Yeah.
on top of that, on top of that, won't hurt to be kind to people and offer advice. Once I used to go into the piazza and declare out loud, I have information for you people to save the world, to save your life, to spare you from all this unnecessary friction, and to liberate you, until I realized that everybody, as Alan Plants used to tell me, be careful not to come across as a peculiar individual. Not a good idea. And then I said,
Too
oh,
late.
yeah, no, but then I said to Alan Plants, who happens to be one of the most incredible poets ever lived, yeah, please describe to me and explain to me what peculiar is, even though I knew very well what it was. But
Yeah.
I needed an alternative interpretation. And then you won't believe how many hours we spent around the configuration of what the peculiar stands for.
Yeah, really
you know,
peculiar.
and,
How do
and,
you
and
just?
that which you recognize and identify long before you realize who the individual is.
Mm,
A conclusion,
yeah,
and
peculiar.
yeah,
Yeah, that's a
yeah,
interesting word to analyze, right?
yeah, oh yeah,
Peculiar. What the frig is peculiar?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I'm peculiar to you. Oh, well, you're pretty boring to me.
Something,
Yeah,
peculiar is usually someone that is
you might be afraid of.
no, peculiar is more like um, 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 in being comfortable in being awkward.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know.
and I would also think if someone is peculiar, that they're a little unpredictable, and that you'd be afraid of not being able to predict everything. They're peculiar. I don't really know what
Yeah,
they're going to do next, kind of
comfortably
thing.
awkward.
Yeah, yeah,
you know.
yeah.
So yeah. Well, anyway, let me just mention that we're speaking to Greg Sullivan Also a wonderful entity, part of LTV, a producer with his own shows and his own productions, and so much more. Always on the go, always relentless, intense, and smart, intelligent, wise, and experienced, and a good friend. On
Thank
top,
you, and
on
yes, I'm enjoying our friendship very much, and thank you for the compliments.
yeah, definitely. But whether you believe it or not, we just spend a whole hour on the air.
Are you kidding me? I
Yeah,
would have said 20 minutes.
1 hour, 58
That
minutes.
happens with you, man. It happens with you. It's great. I love
Yeah,
it. But you're
58.
the most intellectually engaging and you're the most intellectually ambitious person. I really admire that. I love that about you. Intellectual ambition. You know.
And I thank you for that. Of course, don't hang up. I'm just going to say we're going to be here tomorrow as much as we were here yesterday and as much as we're here this morning. Wonderful Tuesday morning, July 9th, 2024, and my birthday is this coming Saturday. So
Ah,
we're preparing emotionally and otherwise, and then of course we're continuing with the group art shows here at LTV. Information is always available. And Greg, just hold on. Let me just
you bet.
discontinue. God bless, guys. Keep up the good spirits. I think it's Boys Harbor fireworks this weekend, also on Saturday. Um, and that's pretty much it. We'll see you sooner than later. We know you're there and we know how much you contribute. So be happy about it and enjoy, because this is the time to enjoy here at the East End of Long Island.